What began as a promising music collaboration has rapidly escalated into one of the most surprising and chaotic feuds to hit the hip-hop scene in recent memory. Nobody anticipated that a single track intended to bring artists and fans together would instead ignite accusations of betrayal, clashing egos, and a full-blown behind-the-scenes fallout now rippling across social media. At the center of the storm are two rising forces in rap, NLE Choppa and NBA YoungBoy, with the track featuring an artist referred to as Leray or Coi Leray in various reports. According to multiple sources, NLE Choppa was originally lined up for a major feature on the song. Everything appeared to be falling into place during the early stages of production. Creative energies aligned, promotional plans were discussed, and fans had even begun buzzing about the potential collaboration. However, things took an unexpected turn when Choppa was quietly removed from the project and replaced by NBA YoungBoy. The switch itself might have remained a minor industry footnote if not for how it allegedly unfolded. Insiders claim that Choppa was not properly informed or consulted about the change, leaving him feeling blindsided, disrespected, and publicly undermined. In an industry where pride, loyalty, and perceived status carry enormous weight, this kind of move can quickly transform a professional decision into something deeply personal. What followed was a wave of unfiltered emotion. Whispers of heated reactions, cryptic social media posts, and indirect shots began circulating almost immediately. Fans, ever vigilant, started piecing together the puzzle through screenshots, deleted comments, and subtle hints dropped online. What initially looked like a routine creative adjustment on a track soon began to feel far more significant, like a breach of trust that struck at the heart of industry politics and personal relationships. Rumors have intensified, suggesting this wasn't merely a label-driven decision based on timing, audience reach, or strategic alignment. Some sources hint at deeper underlying tensions or disagreements that may have been simmering long before the final version of the song took shape. If those claims hold any truth, then this situation transcends a simple feature swap. It touches on questions of loyalty, respect, and the delicate power dynamics that govern collaborations in hip-hop. The real question lingering in the air is whether NLE Choppa was genuinely disrespected in the process, or if there's a more nuanced story that hasn't fully surfaced yet. According to those close to the situation, this could mark only the beginning of a larger fallout, with potential ripples that extend well beyond one song. To fully grasp how things reached this point, it helps to understand the key players involved and the context of their careers. NLE Choppa has built a reputation as one of the most energetic and outspoken voices in modern rap. Since bursting onto the scene, he has cultivated an image of authenticity and fearlessness, someone who refuses to stay silent when he believes he has been wronged. His high-energy persona, combined with a willingness to address issues head-on, has earned him both praise and scrutiny. Every move he makes is closely watched, and his reactions often spark widespread debate and controversy across platforms. On the other side stands NBA YoungBoy, an artist whose influence in the rap game remains undeniable despite a relatively reserved public demeanor. YoungBoy's music resonates deeply with a massive and fiercely loyal fanbase. His ability to dominate streaming charts and cultural conversations gives him significant leverage in the industry. Stepping into a feature slot that was reportedly once occupied by another prominent artist instantly placed him at the center of swirling speculation, even if he had no direct involvement in the initial decision-making process. Then there's the artist at the core of the track, Leray, sometimes spelled or referred to as Coi Leray in circulating reports. She has steadily navigated the complexities of the music business, balancing creative vision, label expectations, and public perception. Features and collaborations often put artists like her in the difficult position of making final calls on track listings, guest appearances, and overall direction. While her role in this situation may simply reflect standard industry practices, The high-profile nature of the other names involved has thrust her squarely into the middle of the growing narrative. In the hip-hop world, features are rarely just about raw talent or chemistry in the booth. They involve intricate negotiations around timing, branding, market reach, label politics, and long-term strategic positioning. Tracks frequently evolve through multiple versions before reaching the public. Artists are added, removed, or swapped for reasons that are seldom disclosed openly. What makes this particular case stand out, according to INS? Iders is the manner in which the change allegedly occurred, without the level of communication or courtesy that Choppa apparently expected. During the early production phase, sources suggest that Choppa's involvement felt secure. Creative direction matched, promotional ideas were floated, and the energy in the studio reportedly felt promising. Fans may have even started anticipating the collaboration based on subtle leaks or studio updates. Then, without clear warning or explanation that satisfied all parties, the situation shifted. NBA YoungBoy was brought in, and Choppa was out. To some observers, this represented a logical strategic pivot, perhaps aiming for different audience demographics, streaming potential, or sonic direction. To others, particularly those in Choppa's corner, it carried the sting of a direct slight. Being replaced is not unheard of in music, but the handling of such transitions can determine whether they remain professional matters or escalate into public drama. Once the final version of the track surfaced without Choppa, fans immediately noticed the absence. Speculation exploded across social media. Questions flooded comment sections. Was Choppa dropped? Did a disagreement occur behind the scenes? Was there a last-minute power play? In the absence of any official statement from the involved parties, the vacuum was quickly filled with theories, some grounded, others wildly speculative. For an artist like NLE Choppa, who has always emphasized authenticity and standing firm against perceived disrespect, this development reportedly struck a personal chord. His history of addressing issues openly made silence unlikely. Soon, subtle posts, story updates, and indirect references began appearing, which fans interpreted as signs of frustration and disappointment. NBA YoungBoy's entry into the song added another layer of complexity. While he may have simply accepted a feature opportunity, his involvement now links him symbolically to the controversy. Comparisons between the two artists' styles, fan bases, and industry positions started trending. Some viewed YoungBoy's addition as an upgrade in certain commercial metrics, while others saw it as emblematic of larger industry favoritism or politics. Carey, meanwhile, finds herself in the uncomfortable position of being associated with the track that sparked the tension. Every decision tied to the project now faces heightened scrutiny, whether fair or not. Her navigation of the situation will likely influence how the public and industry peers perceive her moving forward. This type of drama is far from new in hip-hop. History is filled with examples of collaborations that fell apart due to last-minute changes, bruised egos, or miscommunication. From classic beefs born in studios to modern social media-fueled disputes, the genre has always thrived on raw emotion and authenticity. What elevates certain situations, however, is when they involve artists with passionate, vocal fanbases who refuse to let perceived slights go unnoticed. In this case, the combination of NLE Choppa's outspoken nature and NBA YoungBoy's dedicated following created the perfect storm for rapid escalation. What might have been resolved quietly in previous eras now plays out in real time across timelines, with fans dissecting every post like and subtle shade. The broader implications touch on several recurring themes in the music industry: the fragility of trust in collaborations, the importance of clear communication, and the way personal pride can intersect with business decisions. Features are business transactions at their core, but they often carry emotional weight for the artists involved, especially when careers are still ascending and every opportunity feels critical for momentum. As the story continues to unfold, several possibilities remain open. It's possible that the replacement was purely creative or strategic, with no ill intent directed at Choppa. It's equally possible that poor handling of the situation created unnecessary friction. Or, there may be layers of prior tensions between the parties that haven't been publicly revealed. What seems clear so far is that the incident has left a bitter taste for at least one side. Choppa's reputation for not backing down suggests he may continue to address the matter in his own way, whether through music, interviews, or social media. YoungBoy, known for letting his music speak louder than words, might choose to stay above the fray or respond indirectly if provoked further. For fans, the situation has become a spectacle that blends music, drama, and speculation. Discussions rage about who was right, who was wronged, and what this says about loyalty in an industry often criticized for its cutthroat nature. Ultimately, only the artists and their inner circles know the full truth. The public sees fragments, leaks, posts, rumors, and interpretations. As more details potentially emerge, this simple collaboration could evolve into a defining moment in the careers of those involved, highlighting how quickly professional relationships can shift in the high-stakes world of hip-hop. The coming weeks will likely reveal whether this tension dissipates into nothing more than online chatter or solidifies into a genuine rivalry with lasting consequences. For now, the hip-hop community watches closely, waiting to see if the energy from this unexpected feud produces any memorable diss tracks, reconciliations, or simply fades into the endless cycle of industry drama. The decision to replace NLE Choppa on the track may have simply been the spark that ignited a much larger conflict. What many assumed would remain a quiet, internal industry matter has instead sent ripple effects throughout the hip-hop world, sparking debates, fan wars, and growing speculation about respect, loyalty, and behind-the-scenes power dynamics. According to multiple unverified insider reports circulating online, the final call to remove Choppa came when the song was already nearing completion. This timing made the move feel less like a routine creative adjustment and more like an abrupt last-minute removal that caught him completely off guard. Sources suggest that Choppa first learned about the change through indirect channels rather than receiving a direct, professional conversation from those involved in the project. In an industry where clear communication is essential for maintaining relationships, discovering such a significant shift through secondary sources can feel like a profound blow to both personal pride and professional respect. Not long after, subtle signs of frustration began appearing online. Cryptic posts, vague captions, and short-lived stories started surfacing, none naming anyone directly, but many hinting at disappointment and a sense of being overlooked. Fans, who closely follow their favorite artists, quickly began dissecting every word, emoji, and posting detail, attempting to link them back to the sudden change in the track's lineup. One widely circulated post, though never officially verified, appeared to express feelings of being moved aside without warning. Another hinted at loyalty not being properly valued, which fans immediately interpreted as a pointed reference to the replacement situation. Meanwhile, NBA YoungBoy's addition to the project started generating significant buzz. As snippets of the track and mentions of the new feature spread across fan pages, his name brought a massive surge of attention and streaming potential. However, it also unintentionally intensified comparisons between the two artists. The conversation quickly moved beyond the music itself and transformed into a debate about who deserved the feature spot. Inside fan communities, heated discussions erupted almost immediately. Some fans argued that the switch made perfect commercial sense, citing YoungBoy's enormous streaming numbers, chart dominance, and dedicated following. Others pushed back strongly, insisting that Choppa's original involvement should have been respected and honored rather than discarded. This split in perception escalated the tension far beyond a simple music decision. On one side were those who viewed the replacement as a smart strategic upgrade aimed at maximizing the song's reach. On the other were those who saw it as a clear form of disrespect toward Choppa. The divide created two distinct camps, each defending their preferred artist with increasing passion. Insiders close to the situation claim that Choppa's private reaction was far more intense than what appeared publicly. Allegedly, his frustration stemmed not only from being removed from the track, but especially from the manner in which the entire process was handled, or reportedly mishandled. In many cases within the music industry, it is not the decision itself that causes the deepest resentment, but the feeling of being sidelined without proper acknowledgement or explanation. That emotional layer reportedly turned what could have been a standard feature change into something deeply personal for Choppa. As the story developed, a major twist emerged. Whispers began circulating that the replacement may not have been driven purely by label strategy. Some sources suggested there could have been underlying disagreements related to creative direction, branding alignment, or even interpersonal dynamics between the parties involved. If accurate, this would mean the situation was never just about swapping one artist for another. It may have reflected a deeper breakdown in collaboration, marked by communication gaps, conflicting expectations, or sudden strategic pivots that left one side feeling blindsided. Just as this interpretation started gaining momentum, another layer complicated the narrative further. Instead of the situation cooling off, online reactions began amplifying the tension dramatically. Fan pages started tagging both artists in posts. Comment sections turned into full-blown debate. Zones and countless clips, edits, and speculative breakdowns flooded timelines. Each new piece of content added fresh fuel to an already growing fire. The prolonged silence from the main parties involved only heightened curiosity and speculation. With no clear explanation, joint statement, or direct clarification coming from Choppa, YoungBoy, or the lead artist on the track, assumptions rapidly began to harden into perceived facts for many observers. Attention gradually shifted away from the song itself and toward the perceived relationship, or growing rift, between the artists. Fans started openly questioning whether this was purely a business move or the beginning of an actual personal conflict. According to ongoing speculation, the next developments would not merely escalate the drama, but fundamentally change how the entire situation was interpreted. Then came another unexpected turn that sent fresh shock waves across social media. New waves of unverified insider chatter suggested that the replacement was far less simple or one-sided than many had initially believed. Reports claimed that multiple versions of the track had been circulating internally, with different feature combinations being tested before the final decision was locked in. This detail significantly altered the narrative for some. Instead of appearing as a sudden and harsh removal, Choppa's exit was reframed by some as part of a natural creative evaluation process, where artists were assessed based on how well they fit the song's evolving direction. In this version of events, the change may have been tied more to a creative pivot than to any direct interpersonal conflict. However, even this explanation did not fully ease the underlying tension. At the same time, NBA YoungBoy's involvement started looking less like a spontaneous substitution and more like a calculated strategic move designed to align the track with a broader audience demographic and a different sonic direction. His fanbase, famous for its massive engagement and streaming power, reportedly played a key role in influencing the final commercial considerations. Yet the situation escalated even further when a set of alleged leaked comments began circulating across platforms. These posts claimed that Choppa felt blindsided not only by the replacement itself, but particularly by the lack of direct and respectful communication leading up to it. While these leaks were never officially confirmed, they strongly reinforced the perception that a serious breakdown in trust and coordination had occurred during the project's final stages. Fans wasted no time diving deeper. Threads exploded on X, formerly Twitter, with users meticulously breaking down timelines, comparing song snippets, and analyzing any past interactions between the artists. Some commentators pointed to broader industry politics, arguing that decisions of this nature are frequently shaped by label priorities, market strategies, streaming metrics, and behind-the-scenes negotiations that the public rarely gets to see. This combination of factors, poor communication, perceived disrespect, fan-driven speculation, and competing commercial interests, has transformed what began as a routine feature adjustment into one of the more unexpected and messy situations in recent hip-hop memory. The core issue now revolves around fundamental questions that often define artist relationships in the industry. How should collaborations be handled when creative or business needs shift? What level of transparency and respect is owed between artists and their teams? And how much weight should personal pride carry when big commercial opportunities are on the line? For NLE Choppa, an artist known for his outspoken nature and refusal to swallow perceived slights, this situation appears to have struck at the core of how he expects to be treated in the business. For NBA YoungBoy, stepping into the feature has placed him in the middle of a narrative he may not have anticipated, forcing his dedicated fanbase to defend his position even as comparisons continue to swirl. The lead artist on the track, meanwhile, remains caught in the crossfire, with every decision now subject to intense public scrutiny. As more details continue to emerge through indirect channels and online chatter, the hip-hop community finds itself divided. Some see this as typical industry politics, where business ultimately overrides personal feelings. Others view it as symptomatic of a deeper lack of loyalty and respect that can poison relationships and collaborations. Whether this conflict remains contained to subtle posts and fan debates or evolves into something more direct, perhaps through diss tracks, interviews, or public statements, remains to be seen. What is already clear is that a single decision made behind closed doors has managed to expose larger tensions about communication, ego, and power in modern hip-hop. The ripple effects are still spreading, and many are watching closely. Why to see if this marks the beginning of a lasting rift, or simply another dramatic chapter in the ever-unpredictable world of rap collaborations. One viral thread boldly claimed that nothing about this situation was random. Features get swapped when leverage shifts, power dynamics change, or strategic priorities evolve. While the post remained unverified, statements like these quickly gained massive traction online, pouring gasoline on an already heated debate and pushing the conversation into even more polarized territory. Fan reactions grew increasingly divided as the story spread. Supporters of NLE Choppa argued passionately that removing him from the track without clear acknowledgement or direct communication felt like a profound lack of respect. They emphasized his proven consistency, strong work ethic, and deeply loyal fanbase as reasons why he deserved to stay on the song and receive proper handling throughout the process. Many pointed out that in an industry built on relationships, transparency matters just as much as talent, and failing to communicate such a change directly can leave an artist feeling undervalued and dismissed. On the opposite side, NBA YoungBoy's dedicated supporters pushed back with equal intensity. They argued that his involvement elevated the track's overall reach, relevance, and commercial potential, highlighting YoungBoy's impressive track record of dominating streaming platforms, consistent chart performance, and massive cultural influence. They claimed his verse made the final version stronger both artistically and strategically. For them, the switch represented a smart business decision rather than any personal slight, with some even suggesting it brought a fresh energy and broader audience appeal to the project. This sharp divide quickly transformed the incident from a simple disagreement over a feature into a full-scale public comparison between two major rap artists, each backed by passionate fan bases fiercely defending their favorite. The debate extended far beyond the music, touching on questions of influence, deserved opportunities, and perceived fairness in the hip-hop world. The most shocking developments emerged as attention shifted toward Choppa's perceived response. Subtle online activity, including strategic likes, reposts, brief interactions, and carefully timed digital presence, was interpreted by fans as indirect signals of dissatisfaction and frustration. Even without any direct public statement naming names or addressing the track explicitly, the tone and timing of his activity led many to believe he was subtly addressing the situation on his own terms. This interpretation pushed the controversy to a new level because the focus was no longer limited to one song. It had expanded into a broader discussion about respect, recognition, and the often unspoken rules that govern collaborations in the music industry. Industry observers began weighing in with more measured perspectives, noting that scenarios like feature changes are relatively common in hip-hop. Tracks frequently evolve through multiple versions during production, with artists added or removed based on creative direction, timing, or label strategy. However, they pointed out that these situations rarely explode into public view unless there is an unresolved emotional element or a breakdown in communication that leaves one party feeling wronged. In this case, the persistent lack of clarity from all involved parties only amplified speculation and kept the story trending across platforms. As theories continued to multiply, one central question dominated online discussions. Was this simply a standard creative decision that spiraled out of control due to public perception and fan involvement? Or was there something deeper happening behind the scenes, perhaps interpersonal tensions, misaligned expectations, or undisclosed conflicts that forced the situation into the spotlight? The moment details of the replacement reached the public, the story did not merely trend. It exploded across every major platform, including X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Users dissected the drama post by post, comment by comment, and clip by clip. What had started as a relatively quiet industry adjustment rapidly evolved into a full-scale online debate that intensified with every passing hour. Fans were no longer passive observers. They actively chose sides and defended them vigorously. Choppa's supporters flooded comment sections with messages of outrage, arguing that swapping him out without a proper explanation felt disrespectful and dismissive. Some users framed the incident as symptomatic of deeper problems in the music business, where artists can be replaced without public acknowledgement, leaving them to manage the professional and emotional fallout alone. Others took a more analytical route, publishing long threads that attempted to reconstruct events by examining subtle online clues, deleted interactions, shifts in promotional materials, and any perceived changes in studio updates. YoungBoy's fanbase responded with matching energy, stressing his undeniable impact, enormous streaming numbers, and consistent influence in rap. Many insisted that his addition gave the track a stronger commercial edge, and that the final version clearly benefited from his presence, both creatively and strategically. What fueled the fire even more was the direct, head-to-head comparison fans began drawing between the two artists. Discussions raged over who carried more influence, who deserved the feature slot more, who might have been underestimated, and whether anyone was truly wronged in the process. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds, with arguments escalating quickly and occasionally becoming aggressive. Content creators and music commentators soon joined the fray, producing breakdown videos that analyzed everything from standard industry practices to the specific dynamics between the artists. Some creators presented the situation as a normal part of music production, where tracks naturally evolve and features frequently change to serve the song's final vision. Others leaned into the dramatic elements, arguing that the lack of transparency made the whole affair appear far more controversial than it might have been in reality. Even in the absence of official statements from NLE Choppa, NBA YoungBoy, or Coi Leray, the lead artist on the track, often referred to as Coi Leray or similar variations, the narrative was already being shaped almost entirely by public perception. And in cases like this, perception frequently becomes more powerful and enduring than the actual facts. Inside industry circles, reactions tended to be more measured. Some insiders viewed the episode as a routine example of how creative direction can shift in the later stages of a project. Others acknowledged that while feature swaps are commonplace, the way such changes are communicated behind closed doors often determines whether they remain professional matters or escalate into public drama. What stood out most to many was the continued silence from the primary parties involved. No detailed clarification, no joint explanation, and no definitive account of what truly occurred. That silence allowed speculation to flourish. Memes, reaction clips, speculative edits, and fan theories circulated rapidly, transforming the situation from a niche industry controversy into a full-blown viral moment that crossed over into broader pop culture conversations. At this stage, the story had taken on a life of its own. It was no longer just about a single track, a replacement, or even a possible disagreement. It had become a symbol of larger issues: control, respect, transparency, and the unpredictable, often cutthroat nature of the music industry. Just when the conversation seemed to settle into predictable patterns of debate and opinion, a new wave of unverified claims began surfacing that threatened to reframe everything once again. According to emerging insider chatter, the situation may have involved contractual complications, scheduling conflicts, or label-level decisions that were never made public. Some sources suggested that multiple commitments and timing issues could have influenced the final lineup far more than any personal conflict between the artists. Another twist hinted that Choppa may have actually been aware of ongoing changes to the track earlier than most fans realized, but the communication may not have met his expectations regarding clarity, timing, or final confirmation. If accurate, this would reframe the incident not as a single abrupt removal, but as a gradual breakdown in coordination that eventually led to misunderstandings on multiple sides. At the same time, YoungBoy's involvement appeared to stem from a separate stage of consideration rather than a direct one-for-one swap. This detail suggested the two events, Choppa's exit and YoungBoy's entry, might not have been as tightly connected as the public narrative assumed. Yet the perception of a straightforward replacement dominated social media, fueling the intense debate that followed. With these additional layers entering the conversation, the entire situation grew more complex than ever. Was it primarily a case of miscommunication and poor handling, a strategic creative shift that wasn't properly explained, or simply a combination of industry logistics, timing pressures, and evolving priorities that accidentally spiraled into a very public controversy? What remains undeniable is that no single explanation has been officially confirmed, and no comprehensive statement has been released to settle the matter. That lingering uncertainty is precisely what keeps the story alive and evolving. In the absence of clear answers, speculation continues to fill the gaps, and every new rumor or detail adds another dimension to an already intricate narrative. For NLE Choppa, NBA YoungBoy, and Coi Leray, this episode why eventually receive direct clarification, or it could linger as one of those industry moments that fans continue to analyze, debate, and reinterpret for years. As of now, the full truth remains partially obscured behind closed industry doors, with only fragments reaching the public. Insiders suggest there may still be unrevealed details capable of reshaping perceptions once they surface. This leaves the hip-hop community with one lingering question: is this truly the final version of events, or is another twist still waiting in the wings? Until clearer answers arrive, the controversy is not merely continuing, it is actively evolving. And in the end, perspectives from fans on all sides help shape how these stories are remembered.